Hello, I'm Andy West from ILX Group. I'm here to talk to you today about change management qualification. I'll look at the broader context of change in organisations. All organisations change. All organisations have to change, and many organisations have adopted standardised delivery mechanisms such as PRINCE2 for projects, MSP, managing successful programmes, management portfolios for strategic change. We also look at the PMBOK and the APM's body of knowledge to ensure that project managers are trained successfully. Despite all of this, latest figures indicate that 37% of projects are considered to be failures. So what else do we need to add to ensure that our organisations deliver change effectively? The change management qualification offered by the APM group covers 4 distinct areas: individual change, team change, organisational change and leading change. All of these 4 areas have to be covered so we can understand how to change effectively. Individual change looks at how individuals react to changed circumstances. So it looks at things like learning styles. How do they take information in? How do they learn new skills? It looks at their experience and their ability to cope with change, which can be about experience and the amount of change they're suffering. It looks at personality. Do they like change? Do they encourage change? But primarily look here at 4 approaches. The behavioural approach, how do I change people's behaviour? Thinking Pavlov and dogs. The cognitive approach, looking at results. Madonna believing herself and visualising herself as being the biggest star in the world and therefore achieving it. The psychodynamic, the inner world of change. How am I reacting to change? When we're first threatened with change, the first thing we do is denial. They can't want to change us. Then anger. Then we start to bargain. If we do this, maybe they'll leave us alone. Depression, I must be terrible. They want to change things. And finally, acceptance. And all of this is about how do I support people through it. And finally, we have the humanistic, which looks at elements of all the 3 previous ones, and particularly is about developing potential. Are we doing the best we can? What challenges us as individuals, and how do we support that? The second area we study is team change. How are teams affected by change, and how does change affect our teams? All of these areas have to be considered. We are social animals and work in social groups. The first thing we consider, types of team. Is this a work team, a project team, a virtual team? Has an impact on how you react. We have to consider where is the team in terms of its development. One of the famous models for this is called the Tuckman model. Forming, storming, norming and performing. We'd like all of our teams to be performing, but of course if we're changing things, they might all be forming. Interestingly, there's a 5th step, mourning, the end of the team. And of course for successful change, we might have to finish one team and start another. Have we dealt with all the things from the end of the old team? As I mentioned already, the social aspect, social roles. Are we all working together effectively? Have we got the right balance of people in our team? And is that the reason why we're not gelling? The third element within the change management syllabus is organisational change. How do organisations work? And one of the ways to look at this is to establish metaphors for the organisation. 4 we consider during the course: machines, political systems, organisms, flux and transformation. Machines, everything has its place, everything links together. Political systems, who do I need on side? Organisms, everything works together because it needs to communicate and work as a whole. It's a kind of corporate entity. And finally, flux and transformation, the idea of chaos in organisations. Now, of course, the dynamics of organisational change will depend on what kind of organisation we have. The models we use for organisational change will depend on the metaphors we also used for our organisation. The final thing we consider here is complex change. How should we approach that kind of large-scale, difficult change? In fact, one of the writers singing actually says, start small. If you try and plan the whole thing, it's much too difficult. The final part of the syllabus, part 4, leading change. We look at things like leadership and management. The difference is the links between them, the basic skills you need to carry out both of these sorts of things. We look at types of leaders. Are you a visionary leader? Are you a connecting leader? Can you inspire people? We look at the different roles that you might play as a leader, phase by phase, what different things are needed as you go through the change. And finally, look at things like self-knowledge, emotional intelligence, the inner resources you need as a leader to enable change to happen and to lead change successfully in your organisation. So why should you invest in change management and this course? What benefits do you get? Well, as an individual, of course, it's more skills, tools, techniques. If you're leading change, why do people react like they do? Why do people change? Or sometimes more importantly, why do they not want to change? What can you do to improve how change is delivered? For your organisation, why should we invest in this? Well, it is about the effective change of the organisation. Why are things failing? Why do changes start but not carry on? Let's look at a range of tools and techniques, things we can try, things we can actually analyse and try and understand what makes change effective. Who's this aimed at? Well, it's actually aimed at anybody who delivers change in an organisation. So, project managers, programme managers, portfolio managers. Those of you who do organisational development need to understand how your organisation is going to develop. And of course, any senior manager who's involved in leading change or enabling change should understand all of those circumstances to make change effective.